Let's begin." The soft melody of a violin wafted through the dimly lit Italian restaurant, mingling with the faint clinking of glasses and the hushed murmurs of other diners. Jake absent-mindedly traced the edge of his wine glass, his eyes fixed on Lily, who sat across the table. She was unusually quiet. For as long as he could remember, this had been their spot, a place of solace where they could reconnect amidst the chaos of life. But tonight, something was off. Lily's eyes darted nervously around the room, her fingers fidgeting with the corner of her napkin. The smile that usually lit up her face seemed forced, the light in her gaze replaced with a flicker of hesitation. Jake's stomach churned. He knew her well enough to sense when she was holding back, but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. "I've been thinking," Lily began, her voice forcibly casual, though her hands betrayed her nerves as they twisted the silver ring she always wore. Jake leaned forward, his brow furrowing. "About what?" Lily hesitated, taking a deep breath as if gathering courage. Then, with the same nonchalance one might use to suggest a change in dinner plans, she said, "Maybe we should allow each other a free pass, just one night, to explore." The words hit Jake like a freight train. For a moment, he thought he'd misheard. He blinked at her, waiting for a smile or a laugh, something to indicate this was a joke. But Lily's expression remained serious, a flicker of excitement in her eyes as she gauged his reaction. "A free pass?" he repeated, his voice low and steady, masking the storm of emotions raging inside him. "Yes," she said quickly, as if relieved the words were finally out. "You know, just once, to see if we're missing out on anything. It's not about us, Jake. It's just curiosity." Jake's grip on his wine glass tightened, the cool surface pressing against his palm. The idea of Lily, his Lily, being with someone else was unfathomable. The casual way she suggested it, as if it were no more consequential than trying a new hobby, left him speechless. "You mean," he began carefully, "you want to sleep with someone else?" "Not permanently," Lily clarified, her tone light. "Just once. To spice things up." Spice things up. The phrase twisted in Jake's mind like a knife. He'd spent years building a life with her, pouring his heart and soul into their relationship. And now, she wanted to throw it all away for a fleeting thrill. He forced himself to smile, though it felt more like a grimace. "If that's what you want, Lily, we'll talk about it later." Her face lit up with relief, mistakenly interpreting his composure as agreement. "I think it'll be good for us," she said, her tone brightening. Jake barely registered her words. He was too busy battling the tidal wave of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak threatening to consume him. For the rest of the meal, he maintained a facade of calm, responding to her chatter with nods and polite murmurs. But inside, he was unraveling. The ride home from the restaurant was filled with strange silence, broken only by the faint hum of the engine. Jake's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white, but his face betrayed none of the turmoil within. Lily hummed softly beside him, as though the evening had been a success. She didn't seem to notice the storm brewing in the man she called her husband. Jake glanced at her out of the corner of his eye. How could she sit there so calmly, so carelessly, after what she had just suggested? As they pulled into their driveway, Jake killed the engine but made no move to get out. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He had to stay calm, had to think clearly. Acting in anger would give her the upper hand, and he wouldn't let that happen. "You coming?" Lily asked brightly as she stepped out of the car. Jake nodded silently, following her inside. The house felt colder than usual, the familiar warmth replaced by an oppressive heaviness. He watched Lily kick off her heels and head to the kitchen, her carefree demeanor like salt in an open wound. "I'm going to bed," he muttered, his voice devoid of emotion. Lily paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "You okay?" Jake forced a smile. "Just tired. Long day." She hesitated, then shrugged. "All right, I'll be up soon." Jake lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of her words pressed down on him, each syllable replaying in his mind like a broken record. A free pass? How could she reduce their marriage to something so trivial? His phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling him from his thoughts. It was Max, his oldest friend, who had always been a steady presence in his life. "You good?" The text read. Jake stared at the screen, his fingers hovering over the keyboard before he typed a response. "Not really. Can I call?" The phone rang almost immediately. "What's up?" Max's voice was laced with concern. Jake took a deep breath, his words spilling out in a rush. He recounted everything. The dinner, Lily's suggestion, the hollow way she looked at him, as if their years together meant nothing. When he finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Jake," Max finally said, his tone firm, "this isn't on you. This is about her. She's the one who's lost respect for what you've built together. But listen to me. You have to stay calm. Don't let this break you. If you want to give her that freedom, fine. But do it on your terms." Jake nodded, even though Max couldn't see him. "You're right. I won't act out of anger, but I can't let this slide either." "Good. Whatever you need, I'm here." After hanging up, Jake felt a strange sense of clarity. He couldn't control Lily's actions, but he could control his response. He wasn't just going to sit back and let her walk all over him. No, he was going to show her exactly what it meant to take him for granted. The days that followed were eerily normal. Lily seemed convinced that Jake had accepted her idea, and her demeanor shifted. She was more affectionate, more attentive, as if compensating for her guilt or perhaps celebrating her newfound freedom. Jake played along, masking his resentment with a calm, detached demeanor. He watched her closely, analyzing every word, every movement. She was hiding something. He could feel it point one evening. As they sat on the couch watching a movie, Jake decided to test the waters. He said casually, "Have you thought about who you'd use your free pass on?" Lily froze for a fraction of a second. Her reaction was so brief. It might have gone unnoticed by anyone else, but Jake caught it. Her laugh was light, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Of course not, Jake," she said. "It's not like I have anyone in mind. I just thought we both needed something fresh." Fresh. Jake repeated the word, bitterness on his tongue. He forced a smile. "Makes sense." Lily relaxed, seemingly reassured by his response. But Jake's mind was already racing. He didn't believe her for a second. Behind the scenes, he began laying the groundwork. He met with a lawyer discreetly, ensuring his assets were protected and preparing for the possibility of separation. He sorted through their financial documents, making copies of everything important. Quietly, he began moving some of his belongings to Max's apartment under the guise of spring cleaning. Every step he took was calculated, methodical. He wasn't just preparing for the fallout. He was planning his next move. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual, each second dragging like an eternity. Jake sat in the living room, fighting interest in the sports channel, though his mind was elsewhere. Lily had been buzzing with excitement all day, her plans for the evening carefully disguised as a girls' night out. "You don't mind, do you?" she had asked earlier, her tone almost too casual. "Not at all," Jake had replied, his expression unreadable. But as she descended the stairs now, dressed in a way she hadn't for him in years, Jake's stomach churned. Her fitted black dress hugged her curves, the soft scent of her perfume filling the room like an unwelcome intruder. "Wow," he said, his tone neutral. "You look ready for a good time." Lily smiled, her cheeks flushing slightly. "Thanks. Don't wait up, okay? It might get late." Jake's jaw tightened, but he forced a small smile. "Have fun." As the door closed behind her, the house fell into a heavy silence. Jake sat motionless, staring at the blank TV screen. He had expected this moment, prepared for it even, but the pain was sharper than he had anticipated. He poured himself a drink, the amber liquid swirling in the glass as he tried to steady his thoughts. Hours passed, each one heavier than the last. He imagined her out there, laughing, dancing, maybe even... He pushed the thought away. but it clung to him like a shadow. At 2 a.m., the sound of the front door opening snapped him out of his daze. He stayed seated as Lily entered, her heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. Her makeup was slightly smudged, her hair disheveled in a way that set Jake's teeth on edge. "Hey," she said, her voice light, but tinged with an awkwardness she couldn't quite mask. Jake glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "You're back late." "It was fun," she replied, avoiding his gaze. Just girl stuff." Jake nodded, standing slowly. "I hope you got what you wanted out of it." Lily froze, her smile faltering. "What do you mean?" "Nothing," Jake said, brushing past her. "Good night." Lily's eyes lingered on him, a flicker of uncertainty in her expression. But Jake didn't look back. The next morning, the air between them was heavy. Lily seemed nervous, her cheerful facade cracking under the weight of Jake's silence. Over breakfast, he decided it was time to confront her. His tone was deceptively light. "Did you enjoy your free pass?" Lily nearly choked on her coffee. Jake, "No, really," he continued, leaning back in his chair. "Was it everything you hoped for?" "It wasn't like that," she stammered, her cheeks flushing. "It was just one night." "It doesn't mean anything." Jake's calm exterior began to crack. His voice dropped to a dangerously low level. "Doesn't mean anything? You tore apart our marriage for a cheap thrill, and you think it doesn't mean anything?" Lily's eyes widened, her mouth opening and closing as she struggled to find words. I thought it could bring us closer. I didn't mean..." "You didn't mean to betray me?" Jake snapped, standing abruptly. "Because that's what you did, Lily. You took everything we built and threw it away." Her voice broke as she reached for him. "Jake, please. I was wrong. It didn't mean anything, I swear." Jake stepped back, his gaze cold. "You wanted freedom. You got it. And now, so will I." Lily's face crumpled. But Jake didn't stay to watch her tears. He walked out of the house, the door slamming behind him. Jake's withdrawal was deliberate and thorough. Over the next few days, he packed his belongings, moving into Max's apartment while Lily watched helplessly. Her attempts to bridge the growing chasm between them were met with icy silence. "Jake, please," she begged one evening, tears streaming down her face. "We can fix this. Just tell me how to make it right." "You can't," Jake replied flatly, not even looking at her. Lily's desperate apologies only fueled his resolve. Every tear, every plea was a reminder of how easily she had dismissed their bond for her selfish whims. Meanwhile, Jake began his subtle campaign. He contacted mutual friends, dropping vague but suggestive comments about moving forward and finding someone who valued loyalty. The rumors spread like wildfire, eventually reaching Lily. The house felt emptier with each passing day. Jake's absence was tangible, an oppressive void that seemed to grow with every box he took to Max's apartment. Lily sat alone in the living room, staring at her phone, willing him to call, text, anything. But her screen remained dark. When she ventured out to meet friends, their smiles seemed forced, their words too carefully chosen. Lily picked up on the subtle shift in their behavior, the knowing glances exchanged when she wasn't looking. Jake's quiet campaign was working. One evening, she overheard a whispered conversation at a mutual friend's party. "I heard Jake's moving on," one voice said. And honestly, who could blame him? Lily's stomach dropped. She approached the group, forcing a laugh to mask her growing panic. "What's this about, Jake?" she asked. The women exchanged awkward glances before one of them spoke. "Oh, nothing serious. Just rumors." Lily's forced smile wavered. "What kind of rumors?" Her friend hesitated, then sighed. "That he's seeing someone." Honestly, Lily, we're all surprised he lasted this long. He deserved better. The words stung more than she expected. She left the party early, her mind racing. Was it true? Was Jake really seeing someone else? The thought clawed at her, growing into a gnawing obsession. Jake watched the fallout unfold from a distance, every piece of his plan clicking into place. The whispers, the rumors, the carefully planted seeds of doubt. All of it was leading Lily exactly where he wanted her. His next move was calculated. One evening, he posted a cryptic message on social media. Grateful to be moving forward with someone who values loyalty and trust. Excited for what's ahead. The post was deliberately vague, but its impact was immediate. Within minutes, his inbox flooded with messages from friends, acquaintances, and even strangers. But the one message he was waiting for didn't come until hours later. Lily's name lit up his phone screen. He let it ring. Then it rang again, and again. Finally, he picked up, his tone cool and detached. "What is it, Lily?" "Jake," she began, her voice trembling. "I saw your post. Is it true? Are you seeing someone?" Jake paused, letting the silence stretch long enough to make her squirm. "What does it matter to you?" "It matters because I still love you," she blurted out, her words spilling over each other. "I know I made a mistake, Jake. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. Please tell me it's not true." Jake's lips curled into a bitter smile. "You wanted freedom, Lily. I'm just following your lead." Her sobs echoed through the phone, but Jake remained impassive. "Good night, Lily," he said, hanging up without another word. Lily's desperation deepened in the weeks that followed. She left tearful voicemails, poured her heart into long texts, and even showed up unannounced at Max's apartment. Jake ignored her at every turn, but he wasn't done yet. He had one last move to make, one that would ensure Lily truly understood the gravity of her actions. Jake contacted a real estate agent to list their house, the very home they had built together. It was the final symbol of their life as a couple, and dismantling it was a deliberate choice. He left the papers on the kitchen counter one evening, knowing Lily would see them when she came by to pick up her mail. The phone call came an hour later. "Jake, what is this?" she demanded, her voice thick with panic. "It's a sale agreement," Jake replied evenly. "We don't need the house anymore, but it's our home." Lily cried. "It was," Jake said coldly. "But at the end of the night, you decided we needed a free pass." Jake chose the same Italian restaurant for their final confrontation, the place where it had all begun. It was poetic, in a way, to end things where the cracks in their marriage had first surfaced. When Lily arrived, she looked like a shadow of the woman she had been. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen from sleepless nights. She slid into the seat across from Jake, her hands trembling as she reached for the water glass. "Jake," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "please don't do this. I know I messed up. I thought having that freedom would make me feel alive again, but I was wrong. I lost sight of what we had, and I'll never find it again." Jake studied her for a long moment, his face unreadable. "Lily," he said finally, "when you asked me for that free pass, you didn't just ask for one night. You took the heart of our marriage and traded it for a fleeting thrill. You betrayed everything we built together." Tears streamed down her face as she reached for his hand. "I'll do anything, Jake. Please, just give me one more chance." But Jake shook his head, his expression resolute. "You already had your chance, Lily. You wanted a free pass, and now you have it. A free pass to move on without me." He stood, leaving her sitting alone at the table, her sobs echoing in the otherwise quiet restaurant. As Jake stepped into the cool night air, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The pain of Lily's betrayal was still there, but it was no longer a burden. He had taken back control, reclaiming his dignity and his future. For the first time in weeks, Jake felt something unfamiliar yet welcome: peace.